All right, guys, we are going to talk today about trig functions of any angle. All right, this is something that is going to carry on. I know I said this yesterday, but it's going to carry on to your next math course, whatever you're taking, whether it be pre-calc, college algebra, those sorts of things. This is still right triangle trig, but instead of using SOHCAHTOA, we're going to use the exact same thing, but we're going to use letters of X, Y, and R. You'll see what I mean here in a second. So, sine, remember, is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. This is exactly the same thing. We're just talking about any angle that is on a coordinate plane. We're going to talk about stuff in the unit circle and stuff not. So this chart right here, this chart is so unbelievably important for you guys to memorize. Sine is y over r. Cosine is x over r. Tangent is y over x. How did you get these ones over here? What are these ones called? Those are the reciprocal ones. What does reciprocal mean? The opposite. You switch. So sine is y over r. So then cosecant is r over y. You've got to remember that sine and cosecant are reciprocals. You've got to remember cosine and secant are reciprocals. You've got to remember tangent and cotangent are reciprocals. What this is I talked to you guys a little bit about this yesterday. We're always talking now about angles that are actually on the coordinate plane. We're not going to just draw a random right triangle. So you're going to be given a point, an x value and a y value. If you are given a point and you're asked to find something, you have the two legs of the triangle. Think about this. Your x value is the left and the right, and your y value is the up and the down. So in your right triangle that you could draw on your paper, you don't have to, you would have to find the hypotenuse. In this case, your hypotenuse is your r value. So let's talk about this for a second. I think it's on the next slide. But your hypotenuse is considered your r value. So when I look at yeah, exactly. So think about this. The Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? These are your legs. And this is your hypotenuse, right? We know that from other stuff. So we're going to use that exact same concept, but we're just using different letters. Instead of a and b, your legs are x and y. So x squared plus y squared, those are your legs, equals r squared, which is your hypotenuse. So you're going to be given a point. You're going to be given an ordered pair, an x and a y. You throw it into that formula, you figure out what the r is, and then you can find all the trig functions. This is really, 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 really basic, I promise. If they ask you in this question, it says, evaluate the 6 trig functions. I don't want to, yeah, we could do this one. All right, so look. Instead of opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse, you need your x, your y, and your r. They're the same things. Here is your given value. What is -4, the x or the r? I mean, the x or the y? X, it's the left and right. It's the first coordinate is the x. What's the y? 3. Okay, so let's find the r. You have -4 squared plus 3 squared equals r squared. What's -4 squared? 16 plus 9 equals r squared. What's 16 plus 9? 25 equals r squared. So what does r equal? 5. Okay, I'm going to bring something to your attention so you guys pay attention to this. That's all you need to solve all this stuff. But I want you to write this down. Your r value will always, not just sometimes, always be positive. Why is that? Why is r always going to be positive? What are you doing to x and y? You're squaring it. Anytime you square, you can have a negative x, you can have a negative y, because it's just the direction from the origin that it goes. But your r value will always be positive. I'll show you why that's a really important thing to remember. So guys, now that you have all this stuff, you have this information. This is all you need to do all the 6 trig functions. Sine. What's the ratio for sine? X over R, Y over R, what is it? Sine is Y over R. Look back at your chart. Cosine is what? What's X over R? Perfect. And then what's tangent? Y over X. Watch how easy this is. Take the Y value, put it over the R. It's 3/5, yeah? What's cosine? Negative 4/5. What's tangent? Negative 3 over, it's Y over R, so 3 over, does it matter where the negative goes? No, it's got to be in front. So when you do the reciprocals, guys, what's the reciprocal of sine? It's cosecant. So what's the cosecant? 5 over 3. Perfect, Jeremiah. What is the secant? 5 over negative 4. Good. And then what is the cotangent? Negative 4 over 3. Perfect. You just flip it. That's it. So the other day we found the opposite, the adjacent, and the hypotenuse. So you guys threw it all in. Now we're just doing it the exact same thing, just y, x, and r. You've got to find all three, and then you can figure all the functions. So let's look at the next one. When we talk about angles that are on the unit circle, if I give you a unit circle and I say, what is the sine, cosine, or tangent? All right, what you guys need to understand is sine is what value? Y over r. Cosine is x over r, right? If the angle is actually on the unit circle, I'll show you what I mean in a second. The sine value of the ordered pair is y. The cosine value of the ordered pair is the x. I'll show you what I mean in a second. You don't have to solve for r. If it's on the unit circle, you don't have to solve for r because your r value is 1. I talked to you guys a little bit yesterday about quadrantal angles. A quadrantal angle is one that is right on the quadrant division. So like this is our 0. My pen went out. This is my 0, 360. What's another way you can call that? 0, 360 is the same as 2 pi, right? Another quadrantal angle, this is 90. What's another way we can call 90 degrees? Pi over 2, good. This is 180 degrees, or pi. This is 270 degrees, or 3 pi over 2. Those are called your quadrantal angles. Those are not in any specific quadrant. Those are on the division lines. So we're going to practice this a bunch, and you guys are going to say, okay, this is not that bad. I get it. Here is our unit circle. Are you guys familiar with this? Have you ever seen it? We used to make you guys memorize it. We're not going to this year. We're going to give it to you. But do you see the angles themselves? This one's kind of hard to read. But do you see the angles themselves that are on the unit circle, like 60 degrees, pi over 3? God bless you. They give you an ordered pair. 45 is pi over 4. There's an ordered pair. These are angles that are on the unit circle. So if it says find all 6 trig functions of 270, when you have something that's on the unit circle, the first thing you do is find that ordered pair. Where is 270? At the bottom, right? What's the ordered pair at 270? 0, negative 1. So I'm going to write down 0, negative 1. Since this angle is on the unit circle, I know that I don't have to find r because my r value is going to be 1. I know that my y value is the sine, and I know that my x value is the cosine. Remember, sine is y over r, cosine is x over r. Since our ordered pair is on the unit circle, you can just name that. So now it's really easy to find all the trig functions. The sine of theta, well, what's the sine here? Sine is what? 0, good. What's the cosine? What does it say? Negative 1, good. What's the tangent? Write it out. What's tangent? What over what? Tangent is y over x. You guys need to write that every time. We're not going to give you those ratios. You need to know it. If I put my y over the x, what happens? 0's in the denominator. So what do we say this is? Undefined. Can't have 0 on the bottom. This will be undefined. So now if we do our reciprocals, what's the reciprocal of sine? Cosecant. So flip it. This is 0 over 1. So what does this become? 1 over 0. So this is undefined. Perfect. My secant of theta, this is negative 1 over 1. So what's my secant when I flip it? When I take negative 1 over 1 and flip it, what does it become? Negative 1. Good. My cotangent, I flip. Instead of negative 1 over 0, it's x over y. So take the x value, 0, put it over negative 1. What's your answer? 0. Guys, when 0's on top, your answer is 0. When 0's on the bottom, your answer is what? Undefined. You've got to be able to decipher between those two. But you guys have to, over the weekend, you've got to get those trig functions memorized. Sine is y over r. Cosine is x over r. Tangent's y over x, and then they flip. So let's do a couple more, all right? Let's do 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we'll be done. Hold on. Okay. Number 1, is this angle measurement on the unit circle, or did they just give me an ordered pair? For number 1, they gave me an ordered pair. They gave me, I need to know x, y, and r. Before I can find all my trig functions, I need all those things. They gave me 2 of those 3. They always will. So which values did they give me? What is x? Positive 3. What is y? Negative 3. And I know my r value is always going to be what kind of a number? Positive. Perfect. So how do you find it? Well, it's x squared plus y squared equals r squared. What is 3 squared? 9. Perfect. What is negative 3 squared? 9 equals r squared. So 18 equals r squared. I take the what? Square root. All right. Now I have r equals the square root of 18. I can break down. What times what gives me 18? 9 times 2. Is there a perfect square in there? Yes. So my r is 3 root 2. So now that you've found all this information, guys, it's real easy to find all 6 trig functions. You have to know how to do this. If I find the sine of this angle, write down sine is y over r. Cosine, excuse me, is x over r. Tangent is what? Y over x. So then our reciprocals, my cosecant flip is what? R over y. My secant flip is r over x. And my cotangent is flip x over y. Every single time you do these problems, you should write that down, because now you don't have to do any thinking. You just have to look in your box and plug it into the little formula that you wrote. What is my y value? I found my y value to be negative 3. What is my r value? 3 square root of 2, okay? We got a problem. First of all, simplify. What can you simplify? Yep, the negative 3 becomes a 1, and this 3 becomes a 1. Now what's the problem? The square root. I have to rationalize top and bottom by the square root of 2. So this becomes negative square root of 2 over 2. That's it. If I was going to do the cosecant, just flip from right here. What is your r value? 3 root 2 over your y value, which is negative 3. So what does this become? What happens with my 3's? They cancel. I just have negative square root of 2. That's it. So now what's your x value here? It's 3 over 3 square root of 2. Is this going to be the exact same answer as the one above? What's the only thing that's different? The negative. This is going to be positive square root of 2 over 2 when you rationalize. So here when you flip, this is going to be 3 square root of 2 over 3. What's going to happen? These cancel. It's just a square root of 2. What about our tangent and cotangent? How do you find the tangent? It's y over r or y over x. So negative 3 over 3 equals what? What kind of 1? Negative 1. So my cotangent is x, 3 over negative 3, which gives me negative 1. Same thing. Very, 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 very basic once you guys find your x, y, and r. The algebra 2 part of this is understanding that the trig ratios are y over r, x over r, y over x, that sort of a thing. The simplification is algebra 1. I'm going to do number 3 now, and then I'll do 4, and then we'll be done. Look at number 3. What did they give me in number 3? What values did they give me? Negative 5, negative 12. What are those? X and y. What is x? Negative 5. What is y? Negative 12. So I'm going to find my r value. How do I do that? How do you find r? Pythagorean theorem. What do we do? Come on. X squared, negative 5 squared, plus negative 12 squared equals r squared. So 25 plus 144 equals r squared. 25 and 144 is 169 equals r squared. And then I take the what? Square root. So r is 13. It's positive 13. Now, guys, you have everything you need to do all of your trig functions. Do I have to do any rationalizing of my denominator? Do I have radicals that I have to deal with? No. So now this is super easy, guys. Write out your trig function. Say them with me. Sine is what? Tell me the letters. Everybody, come on. Y over r. Perfect. Say it. What is cosine? X over r. Perfect. What is tangent? God bless you. Y over x. Now we're going to find our reciprocals. The reciprocal of cosine, or sine, sorry, is cosecant. What is that one going to be? R over y. The reciprocal of cosine is secant. What is that? Perfect. And then what is my cotangent? X over y. And now, guys, you just look at what you have circled. That's it. Y over r. What's my y value? Negative 12 over r is 13. So what's my cosecant? If my sine is negative 12 over 13, what's the cosecant? Negative 13 over 12. Awesome. If my cosine is negative 5 over 13, what is my secant? Negative 13 over 5. Good. And then if my tangent is y over r, y over x, so negative 12 over negative 5. Well, 2 negatives gives me a perfect. So there's my tangent. So what's my cotangent? Negative 5 over negative 12, which gives me 5 over 12. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I'm going to do one more, but what we're going to get to tomorrow, not tomorrow. When do I see you again? Monday. They might tell you that the cosine of theta is negative 4 over 7. And you guys are going to be like, wait, what? And that what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, well, what is cosine? What is cosine? What's the ratio for cosine? Cosine is x over r. So in this case, did they give me two values? Yeah, they gave me the x value and they gave me the r value. So what would I have to find? I'd have to find the y, and then I could do all my trig functions. Guys, what number is x? X is what value? All right. I agree that x is negative 4, but how can I tell that that negative goes with the 4? I agree. X is negative 4. That is true. But you can't just say it's negative because it's in front of the 4. Because all that negative is saying the fraction is negative. How do you know for sure that the negative goes with the x and not with the r? What I tell you guys r always is positive. So if there's a negative, you knew that it had to be with the x because your r value is always positive. So we're just going to move to that. You guys just have to think a little bit more. But the last question here that I want to go over, it says find all 6 trig functions of 180. Well, what do you guys know about 180? Where is 180? Is it just some random point or is it on my unit circle? It is on my unit circle. So this makes our life so much easier. We find the ordered pair at 180. What is that ordered pair? What's the ordered pair? Okay, -1, 0. We're at 180 degrees, or pi. So since we're on the unit circle, I know that my x value is my cosine, and I know that my y value is my sine. So I already have 2 of my 6 trig functions. So I'm going to write them out. My sine, cosine, and tangent. Tell me what those trig functions are. What is the ratio for sine? What over what? It's y over r, right? What is cosine? X over r. And what is tangent? Y over x. Perfect. Say it a million times, guys. Sine reciprocal is cosecant, so it's r over y. Secant is r over x, and then our cotangent is x over y. So since we're on the unit circle, we know our r value is 1, so we don't have to worry about it. But think about this. Your sine value is 0 over 1, which is going to give you what? What's 0 over 1? 0. Perfect. My cosine is x over r, so it's -1 over 1, which gives me -1. Perfect. My tangent is my y value. Look, if you need to write an x here and a y there, that's fine. It's your y value, which is 0, over -1, which gives me 0. Perfect. All right, now let's flip it. 0 over 1, when I put my r, this becomes 1 over 0. What happens there, guys? Undefined. Perfect. I have my r over my y, so or x. 1 over -1 gives me -1. I take my cotangent, I flip, I put my x value over my y value, and that gives me undefined. We like those quadrantal angles. It makes life a lot easier because your r value is always 1. If it's not on the unit circle, they're going to give you 2 of the 3. You figure out the missing piece, and then you throw it in. But you guys really and truly need to go home this weekend and try to memorize this. Just remember, these are the opposite, the reciprocals. Sine is y over r. Cosine is x over r. Tangent is y over x. And the reciprocals are the flipped. Sound good? All right, good job. I know it's Friday. I get it. We're going to do the end of this section we're going to do on Monday, so you guys will have plenty of time to practice. We're going to practice in class on Tuesday and take our quiz on Wednesday.